Lord, folks. There's one of them newfangled horseless carriages coming.
Hey there, everybody. PTPOP here with all four lobes of my brain securely bound behind my back. And today we're going to take a deep dive into a very, very sensitive topic, the American dream. Once upon a time, as we all know here in the United States, the American dream meant a stable job, a home, and a decent quality of life. But in 2025, for millions of Americans, that dream feels more like a fantasy than it does a reality. Today, I'm going to talk about the real cost of living in America, how wages haven't kept up, how corporate landlords are driving up rent astronomically, and whether the American dream is still possible. Let's break it down, shall we? So I don't know about you, and I know I talk a lot on here about call centers, but the average job here in America that I've applied for, even though I've got 30 years of experience in the corporate world, a college degree, is about $15 an hour. And $15 an hour isn't enough for my wife and I to live off of it. She lost her job again. $15 an hour would cover some of the bills, but not all of them. And we'd have to dive into our savings to pay for the rest. We were sitting around, well, should we sell our house and just go rent something? Should we just rent a house, go rent a condo, downsize and rent? And we started looking at some of the cost of rent just here in Cleveland is crazy. If you want to live in a decent neighborhood, and what I mean by decent is where there's not a lot of crime and the structures are in good shape and things like that, you've got to pay anywhere from $1,700 to $2,000 a month just for a 1 to 2 bed apartment. And I thought to myself, how does anybody make it? How is anybody making it in this world? I mean, let's talk numbers, okay? The median rent in the United States, not just in Cleveland, but across the country, is around $1,700 per month or $20,400 per year. Meanwhile, the median household income sits at just around $80,610 per year, which means rent accounts for about 25% of the income for the average household, but there's a catch, okay? This is household income, not individual income. Many renters, especially younger people, single income households, make far less than this. For those, as I had said about call center people, for those earning closer to $40,000 or $50,000 per year, rent can easily eat up 40 to 50% of their income, leaving little for savings, debt, or emergencies. So what's happening out there? Wages are barely moving, but rent is skyrocketing. It's fueled by corporate landlords, rent-setting algorithms, and a housing market that's squeezing out regular people. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to show you a video I found from More Perfect Union. This is on YouTube. And this is a video titled The Real Reason You Can't Afford a House.
How am I supposed to compete with a hedge fund out of Texas on buying a home? It makes you feel insane because it's like there's a conspiracy against me at this point.
If you're looking for a place to live right now, you face a radically different housing market than people did even just 15 years ago. Home prices have gone up, rents have gone up, evictions have increased, and a whole group of would-be home buyers has been priced out of homeownership, becoming permanent renters.
People want to own the American dream. They don't want to rent the American dream.
They've been...
Okay, the American dream, as a kid, you heard this phrase all the time. You got to go to college and achieve the American dream. You got to find the girl of your dreams and have the American dream and find the guy of your dreams and get the job and get the house, get the car and get the Labrador Retriever. It's the American dream. And I was always led to believe that this stemmed from the post-war boom of World War II. Just like my parents, they bought a house in 1950, had 3 kids until I came along in 65. They had the brand new car, they had the barbecue, they had the brand new house in the suburbs. But the phrase the American dream was first popularized in 1931 by historian and writer James Truslow Adams in his book, The Epic of America. In the book, Adams describes the American dream as the dream of a land in which life should be better and richer and fuller for everyone, with opportunity for each according to ability or achievement. His vision of the American dream was not just about wealth or material success, but also equality, opportunity, and a better life for all, regardless of background. However, over time, the phrase became more closely associated with homeownership, financial prosperity, and upward mobility, especially during the post-World War II economic the 1950s. So I guess my feeling that it came from the post-War World War II is somewhat correct. And I just find it funny that everyone is always talking about this American dream thing, and I don't think it's achievable sometimes, as expensive as things are. But let's see what these people have to say.
Replaced by an industry that treats our communities and neighborhoods like a day trader treats stocks, just something to buy and sell to maximize return.
It's been catastrophic.
Really just a few firms have been able to target and corner the market here. Their business model is built on exploitation and on having a very uneven playing field tilted in their favor.
So who exactly is behind this? We went to the cities at the center of this crisis to understand how single-family homes became big business.
Now this is very, very important here, because after the housing market crash of 2008, big corporations like Vulture swooped in and they started buying up properties. But let's take a look at this. The U.S. Justice Department is investigating 6 major landlords of scheming to keep rents high.
Well, a number of states are joining a federal lawsuit over the rising costs of rents nationwide. The Justice Department is suing 6 major property companies. They're all accused of illegally collaborating to raise costs. Those companies operate more than 1 million housing units in 43 states. Federal prosecutors accuse them of using algorithms to set rents and share sensitive information in order to boost profits. A White House study found that practice costs renters an average of $70 extra per month, totaling nearly $4 billion in 2023.
So there are major corporations that swooped in on America after the housing crash of 2008, bought up properties from coast to coast. They bought up apartment buildings, they bought up houses, and they became landlords. And they became slumlords, and they became tyrannical slumlords that were putting the thumb screws to anybody that would rent to them. But they keep jacking up the prices again, higher and higher. Now, I recently, when my wife got laid off, we were looking at getting into a rental property, trying to get out from underneath this mortgage and rent. I called a few places, and every place wanted us to have 3 times the rent in salary each month. So if the rent was $1,200 a month, they want us to be bringing in $3,600 a month. And if the rent was $2,000 a month, they wanted us to be bringing in $6,000 a month. And it just went up and up and up, and now it was crazy. I thought, well, who's coming up with these rules? I thought that was kind of outrageous. Now, the 3 times the rent scenario or rule is common income requirements used by landlords and property management companies to ensure tenants can afford their rent while covering other living expenses. This is a standard which emerged from financial guidelines, industry norms, and risk mitigation strategies, rather than any specific legal requirement. So it's not a rule, it's not a law, it's just a rule. It's just a rule. They say, hey, this is what we want you to have. Here's how the corporations or property managers justify and enforce this rule. Many financial experts and housing industry organizations, such as the National Multifamily Housing Council and real estate investment firms, suggest that renters should spend no more than 30% of their gross income on housing. The 30% rule dates back to U.S. housing policies in the 1960s, when the government set rental assistance eligibility criteria based on affordability guidelines. Risk management for landlords came about when corporation landlords used the 3 times the rent to minimize the risk of tenant default evictions. And companies like RealPage, AppFolio, and Yardi provide tenant screening algorithms that assess financial risk. So what it comes down to is they want you to have 3 times the rent in your income to prove to them that you're less of a risk to default on your lease. They don't want to go through all that. They don't want to go through that. They want to have a constant income. They want to make sure you're economically viable. And I I remember in 2002, I moved to Phoenix. I sold my condo in Ohio. I moved to Phoenix. I had a little apartment for $625 a month. And there was no rule like this. They didn't want me to have 3 times. They just wanted to make sure I had a job, which I did. And they wanted to make sure I had enough money in the bank to prove to them that I could, if I lost my job, I could still pay the rent. I don't remember this being a rule 25 years ago, 23 years ago. So it's getting to be really crazy out there. And I don't know how anybody who's making $50 an hour can afford to live in a rental property unless they're living in a substandard neighborhood or, quote, a ghetto. Now, while this rule is common, it's not a federal law, and some cities and states have challenged or banned strict income requirements for renters. It seems to be like discrimination, income discrimination. New York City, California, and Oregon have laws that prevent landlords from enforcing income-based discrimination against renters who receive housing assistance or subsidies. So they make it very difficult for people to rent these days. So I'm going to show you some more videos here on TikTok.
Minimum wage workers in Arizona would need to work.
So I used to live in Arizona. I lived in Arizona from 2002 until 2013. And this states that a new report from the Morrison Institute of Public Policy with Arizona State University said the price of rent increased nearly 72% from the year 2010 until 2022. The report says minimum wage workers would need to work 86 hours per week to have more than two full-time jobs in order to afford a 2-bedroom house in Phoenix.
Minimum wage workers in Arizona would need to work 86 hours per week or have more than 2 full-time jobs in order to afford a 2-bedroom home. Now that's according to a new ASU report that was released this month, shedding light on how expensive it is to live in Arizona.
For the same 1-bedroom, I used to pay $1,300 back in 2018, and now I'm paying $2,300 for the same.
$2,300. I mean, and if they want 3 times the rent, you're going to be making almost $7,000 a month in salary to cover the rent based off of their quote rules unquote.
Apartment.
The median sale price of a home skyrocketed 57% from April of 2019 to April of 2023.
Now, the house that we owned in Phoenix was a 1,300 square foot house we bought for $149,700. That same house now sells for $450,000 on Zillow.
Rent in Arizona also increased by 72% over the course of 12 years. ASU researchers say more has been done in the last 2 legislative sessions to help with the housing crisis. That includes allowing casitas or accessory dwelling units and more. There are now more programs to help first-time homebuyers as well.
I would have to disagree that $2,100 a month is damn cheap. And a lot of people have commented this, but it's just not true. So I'm going to explain.
Hold on. So I heard a kid in the back. She must have a kid in the back seat. So let's say you're a single parent. I don't know if she's a single parent or not. Let's say you're making $40,000 a year and you've got a kid. Number one, kids are damn expensive. I don't have any kids, but I know lots of people that have had them and they're expensive. Daycare, food, clothing, medical, all of it. So how does someone who's single with a parent, with a child, with a crappy job making maybe $40,000 a year, even come close to being able to pay the rent and have a kid and put food on the table and all that stuff? It doesn't make any sense.
I would have to disagree that $2,100 a month is damn cheap. And a lot of people have commented this, but it's just not true. So I'm going to explain why. The national average salary in the United States right now is $59,000, and $59,000 after taxes, you're taking.
Now that contradicts what my research had done, that the average salary was $80,000 based on what my research said. This video is from March of 24, so this is not even a year old. But maybe the average single person
take home every month is about $3,800. So if you are a household or a single person living off of that one salary, that rent right there is more than half of what you're making. And that's just the average. So of course there's going to be people that are well below the average who cannot even afford a $2,100 rent that you guys are saying is cheap. Now,
No, there's no way $2,100 is cheap. I mean, that's more than our mortgage here. A lot more than our mortgage here. I don't know how these corporations get away with this, because they're pushing everybody out of their houses and onto the street, living in their cars here.
American home buyers right now need to earn an average of $115,000 a year in order to be able to afford the cost of an average house. However, only 34% of households and 18% of individuals are over 100K in the first place. Not even to say 115, just over 100K.
Okay, and this is what I find confusing. Who's buying all these houses? There's houses all around us selling for $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, and this is in Ohio. We can't figure out how these people have so much money, unless they inherited money or they've saved up a lot of money, put a huge down payment on the house. How do people around here afford houses like this?
And that means that basically 70% of America is facing housing instability, because the average cost of rent in this country is around $1,800 a month, which amounts to $21,000 a year. Honestly, to me, it almost seems...
And that would be, if you're making $40,000 a year, that's more than 50% of your income. And you got nothing left over. Especially if you want to put money into a 401k for your retirement, and they take a whole boatload of that out of taxes and Social Security. So what do you got left? You probably are dealing with, if they take 21,000 to 40, so you got 19,000 left over. Then you take taxes out of that. What are you bringing home? Like 12,000 a year? Just spread it over 12 years. You got $1,000 extra a month to pay for the utilities, to pay the car payment, to pay your car insurance, renter's insurance. Cutting it really close. And if you get a really bad illness, you're screwed.
like they're asking for a revolution. What do they expect us to do? Human beings have a fundamental right to defend their own lives. Being denied a living wage and being denied the ability to provide yourself with a stable home and food and electricity, that is class warfare.
Yeah, it's definitely class warfare. They're definitely trying to push us out onto the street. And it seems like throughout the centuries, this is what all the big tyrannical governments do to each of us. It doesn't matter whether it's Trump or Biden, whoever, they're all behind this. You all think that Trump is the guy galloping down from the mountaintop wearing a white Stetson and a white horse is going to come to save us. But it doesn't look that way.
You have to hear this. The reason your rent is so high is probably because landlords are illegally colluding to raise it. And no, I'm not exaggerating. In fact, the Justice Department and 8 states are actively suing RealPage, the company that's allegedly responsible for this. So imagine.
Okay, so this video is just from this last fall, September 3rd of 2024. And RealPage is one of many giant corporations that are fixing the rent nationwide.
Imagine a room, a really rancid room, where all the landlords in a city come together to decide on a rental price that will maximize their profit. All the landlords then go and price their rental units at that rate, inflating the market. This is what RealPage is, except instead of it being a literal room, it's an algorithm. Landlords input private data about their properties into RealPage. This is the super illegal part. And the RealPage algorithm tells them all how much they should charge on rent to maximize.
So what is RealPage? RealPage is basically a massive corporation, one of several massive corporations that are based off of Wall Street investors that are buying up properties into the high rent, high profit machines. There's Blackstone. Blackstone owns over 300,000 rental units that's driving up prices. There's Greystar, biggest landlord in the US, accused of using software to fix rent prices. And there's RealPage, created AI-driven rent setting tool encourage landlords to raise prices in sync. That means your rent goes up across the board at every unit they own across the nation.
Their profits. In other words, landlords no longer have to compete with each other to attract renters, and basically guarantee themselves a better deal by participating in RealPage. The company also actively dissuades landlords from setting lower rental prices, encourages the delisting of vacant units, and purposely times renewals to limit tenant leverage. It gets extra concerning when you learn about RealPage's immense reach. In DC, rent prices at 90% of units in large buildings are believed to be set by the company. Chances are, if you've had your rent raised astronomically in the past few years, you have RealPage to thank. There is no good reason for rent to have increased nationally by 20% in the last 5 years, except for greed. And RealPage?
Yeah, I mean, greed is taking over. And greed is really decimating the American dream. So what does all this mean for the American dream and for you and me if you're here in the States? Well, homeownership is slipping away. When I was single, I was making a lot of money, but I could buy a house on my salary. This is 23 years ago. I almost bought a house in Tempe, Arizona, before I met my wife, and it was only like $110,000, which I could more than afford in the salary I was making. The median home price is over $400,000, while mortgage rates remain high. More people are forced to rent, meaning they build zero equity. So if you can't afford to buy a house, you're not building up equity. And in rent, you're just throwing your money away. You're not getting anything it's not an investment. So it's not considered an investment. There's no way you can make money off of renting something from someone. So is the American dream dead? Let's see what these people have to say. This is Working Hard Podcast at Vivian, your rich BFF on the American dream.
Use the same playbook our parents gave us to live life today, right? We've been told this American dream. You work hard, you study good, you go to college, you get a good job, you climb the corporate ladder, and you will be able to buy that white picket fence home, go on 2 vacations a year, and have your 2 kids and a golden retriever. It doesn't work like that anymore.
No, it doesn't work like that anymore. It just doesn't. It just doesn't work like that. And the funny thing is my wife's parents are probably about 20 years younger than my own parents. And my father-in-law, before he passed away, he just couldn't understand why people would leave jobs and go to another job, or why they get laid off, or why somebody didn't work at the same place for 30 years. It didn't compute because he worked at the IRS for over 30 years. And he just, the older generation thinks that's the way it's supposed to be, but it all changed.
Listen, if you still want to come to America because you believe in the American dream, let me tell you something. That dream died like 30 plus years ago, and now we're living in a dream that involves paying $10 for a dozen of shitty fucking eggs, paying $2,000 a month for an apartment in the ghetto that's about 700 square feet and it has no walls. And then if you want to go to university here, you're looking at around $100,000 for a 4-year education. That's on the low end. But in those 4 years, you might get shot because everyone seems to want to shoot each other for some ungodly reason. Then you're going to
She's completely right, man. I mean, everybody wants to shoot each other. That's the answer to everything in this country.
graduate thinking,
It's Olivia Garcia. This is all on TikTok.
oh, I graduated, I have a degree now, I'm going to get a good job. Your good job is going to pay you about $40,000 starting off, maybe, and then they're going to say you're going to work 40 hours a week. When in reality, you're going to be working about 50 plus hours a week because they're going to guilt trip you in by saying, we're a family, we're a team, we help each other.
It's all about having fun, people. We're a team. They do it at every... It's not just in call centers, man. They push that team, let's have fun thing. Let's go out for beers. Let's play bingo.
And they're not going to pay you overtime for that because why would they? If they get your help for free, why would they pay you for that? Okay? Then there's no work-life balance. That company you're working for now doesn't want to give you vacation days until like maybe your second year working there. And those vacation days are maybe 4 days out of the whole entire year. That includes...
Okay, I don't know about that stuff. This guy says the American dream is dead.
Done. Again. Sitting at the table last
I can't play that because of the music in there. So this guy says the American dream,
the story
we were told about is dead, but America is still the land of opportunity. It's Todd.Nipola.
American dream, the story you were told, is dead. What's not dead is that America is still the land of opportunity, but that dream that you were going to get good grades in school, go to a great college and get a great job and be able to retire there 30 years later, that's long since ended. All you got to do is look at the news and see these companies are laying people off that have been there for 20, 30 years like they're just replaceable nothings.
Yeah, my wife was with her company for 16 years, and they just let her go. She had just won the President's Award, gotten huge bonuses, met the big muckety muck at the top of the company. They flew her out to San Francisco, the whole 9 yards. Didn't
Today,
matter.
what you need to do more than ever is take responsibility for yourself. We are in a new age. You need to learn things like sales. You need to learn things about how to get on podcasts, how to be an influencer, how to use ChatGPT to...
Okay, Charlie. I don't know what this guy's saying. Look, I've done all these things, as I've said earlier. I'm on ChatGPT. I know how to do podcasts. I know how to do vlogging. I write. I sell books. I sell paintings. I sell photography. You know, I do all the stuff. I've got like 10 irons in the fire. I know all about how to market myself on social media, and it doesn't amount to squat.
Create a future. You need to learn a new way of getting rich and getting successful.
Okay, yeah. Another dream they're trying to sell you here in this country is how to get rich and successful in America. Ladies and gentlemen, your aim isn't to get rich and successful, because that happening is very slim. You need to save enough money so you can retire in your mid to late 50s and live whatever time you've got left on the planet somewhat comfortably, so you're not living on the street, you know, in a van down by the river.
Dream is pretty much dead in America, and it's because wages have not kept up with inflation. Let's take a firefighter, for example. In 2011, they made $45,000 a year on average. Now the average salary for a firefighter is $53,000 in California, which, let's be real, in California, that's not gonna go very far. So that is a...
Yeah, $53,000 a year in California won't get you through 6 months.
17% increase, which sounds pretty good, but when you look at the inflated costs of everything in the past 13 years, it's really bad. The buying power has gone down dramatically. Housing is just one example. If you want to buy a house, this is $1.3 million today.
This is Kyle Ostrom.
Me as a millennial is pissed the fuck off. All we did was get fucking scammed. We were told that if we went to school, we got good grades, we got a good job, that we would be able to work hard, have the American dream, be able to own our own home, have a family of whatever that might look like, be able to own what we want, and be comfortable doing so. We were told work hard, even though we're the generation that works the hardest, in my opinion.
Well, hold on there, Mr. Gen Xer. I'm sorry, a millennial. I'm a Gen Xer, and we were told the same. We were sold the same bill of goods. We were sold the same bucket of lies. And you're not alone. We were all lied to. The baby boomers, I believe the baby boomers, like my older siblings, are all baby boomers, and I believe that they had the greatest advantage other than my parents after the war. But the baby boomers, I think they got the benefits of the post-war boom. And then Gen Xers, myself, I'm a Gen Xer, and millennials and everybody else, we've got the shaft because the world changed. And I beg to differ when I would say that my parents' generation and the baby boom generation are the hardest working generation. I think Gen Xers and millennials are lazy little bastards. We all think something was supposed to be handed to us for some reason.
And we're told we're fucking lazy. Well, I'm here to tell you, I work between 52 and 55 hours a week. I make decent money. I have a decent job. And I don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of.
There's a window right behind you, dude. I'll sum it up with this video. Be kind of on a down note, but this pretty much sums it up right here.
The American dream isn't just for a few. They call it the American dream, but for who? Rent is unaffordable. Families live paycheck to paycheck, barely making it. Housing prices are through the roof, and God forbid you get sick, $4,000 just to see a doctor. This is the land of opportunity? Then why does opportunity feel so far away? For most, it's not a dream, it's survival. And politics? It's a game. They don't solve problems, they create division. One side fights the other, while the people are left struggling, stuck in the middle. And the money? Billions go overseas while right here at home people are homeless.
That's just what they're finding out with the new Trump administration. Billions upon billions of dollars going overseas to other countries for outrageous things like transgender educational things and all kinds of weird stuff. Like, I don't want my tax dollars going for that when there's a guy living on the street or a gal living on the street.
Children go hungry, veterans are forgotten. So I ask again, if this is the American dream, why does it feel like only a few get to live it while the rest just fight to get by? It's time to wake up. A dream that only works for the wealthy and powerful. That's not a dream, it's a lie. We deserve better, because the American dream isn't dead, it's been stolen. And it's time to take it back. The American dream isn't just...
That's true. And I'll leave it with that. I mean, where do you sit in all this? Are you able to make ends meet? Do you have a job that pays a living wage? Do you have health benefits? Have you run into a situation where your work and everything is going along fine, then you got sick? You had astronomical medical bills? We've run into it. Both of us have been sick. And it's crazy. So leave me a comment. Let me know how the economy is affecting you, how you've been able to live the American dream. Have you been able to live the American dream? And if so, how has it turned out? Is it everything you'd hoped it would be? Or do you think it's a lie, just like many people think? So let me know. Leave me a comment. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Subscribe. And I'll talk to you later. Hasta la vista, baby.
Would you like fries with that? Would you like fries with that?